Good morning. In 1835, the Russian poet and writer Alexander Pushkin composed what is now a famous fairy tale called The Fisherman and the Fish. It's a brief tale written in verses that depicts an old couple living in a hut on the shore of a great sea, and they get their livelihood from fishing, but they're not doing very well. At the end of a long and unsuccessful day, yet another one, the man finally catches something. He catches a golden fish. The fish has magical powers and offers to fulfill whatever the old man wishes in return for its freedom. But the fisherman doesn't need anything. He doesn't want anything. He's happy to let the golden fish go back to the blue sea. But when he comes back home, his wife is unhappy with his benevolence. She sends him back, wishing the golden fish to do something for them. They need to get at least something from this situation. The fish should fix their broken washtub. They're poor after all. The man goes back and asks the talking fish to change the vessel, which the fish immediately changes, fixes. Yet when he returns home, his wife is dissatisfied again, and she wishes more, proposes greater and greater wishes. She wants to have a house, which miraculously appears in front of her. She asks to become a noble lady, which the fish fulfills, to live in a palace, which happens. And finally, she desires to become the ruler of the great sea. At that point, the golden fish disappears in raging waves. The man returns home, where he finds his wife sitting in an old hut with a broken washtub by her side. It's a lovely tale written in verses. It's quite beautiful, even in the English translation, I think, provided by Robert Chandler. The story is about several things. It reverses the typical patriarchal picture by portraying the woman as somebody stronger and more dominant, yet it underscores the same stereotype by depicting the wife as ill-advised and never satisfied. But above all these things, I think it is a tale about the potential and danger of wishes. Just like Solomon's dream from our first reading from the Old Testament. Solomon, who assumed Israel's throne after his father David, went on a sacrificing spree at one of the greatest cultic sites of its day, at Gibeon. And during this long feast, meaning to honor the Lord of Israel, he had a dream. One night, God appeared to him and asked him one simple question. What shall I give you? What shall I give you? Perhaps Solomon was giving too much to the Lord, 1,000 burnt offerings, and God decided to give him something in return. Solomon, in a way reminiscent to the fisherman in Pushkin's fairy tale, had a chance to voice a request that was certain to be fulfilled. The question posed to him is indeed simple. But the answer, I fear, is much more complicated. Let's imagine it. Envisage that you would be in Solomon's shoes. What if God comes to you this night or this morning and asks, "What shall I give you?" What would you say? What would your wish be if you know that God will hear it and the wish will be granted? So try to imagine it for a few seconds. what would you say? That's not a rhetorical question. It's a real question. What would you say? Can you share it with us? Chris.
The heathen for an inheritance.
The
heathen for an inheritance.
The heathen for an inheritance.
Yes, it means salvation of the unsaved.
Oh, salvation of the unsaved. Thank you. You used the language I was not familiar with. It was from the Old Testament. Yeah. Yes. Any other wish you wish to share? Justice for the oppressed. Thank you. Yes, Jane.
Pandemic would go away.
Pandemic would go away. Yes. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you so much. Now I need to limit slightly the wishes that you can have. Because here's the trick. The wish needs to be something realistic. At least it is in the story of Solomon and also in the fairy tale that I spoke about. Something that could happen. So you cannot say, I wish the COVID-19 pandemic would go away. Or, I wish the global warming would be reversed. Such requests are utopist. They would require changing natural laws or the way the world normally operates. Furthermore, notice that the question is very pointed. What shall I give you? So you need to be the recipient of the wish, you and only you. Let's try our experiment again. Think about something that you want. It's a long-term wish, not something that you want for today or this week, but it's a lasting wish, lasting desire. It could happen somewhat, and you would be the recipient of it. What is it? What would you say now? Let's think about it, and you don't need to share it this time. When I was a child, 12 or 13, I think, I had several wishes that I took very seriously. I grew up in a very nice and stable family that nevertheless shared no religious faith. However, at that age, I became painfully aware of my mortality. I could not comprehend that one day I will cease to exist and people will keep on living, that they will talk, walk, and play, and I will not be there. So I wished to live forever. But this pious wish was intermingled with more mundane desires. Specifically, for a number of months, at least I remember it this way now, I had an evening ritual. Before I was going to bed, because falling asleep was something closest to death that I imagined, I sent to the ceiling of my kids' room 3 quiet wishes. Here are the wishes. 1, so that people would come up with medicine that would prevent dying. 2, so that people would find cures for major diseases. And 3, so that I would start receiving in the mail that magazine with paper models in it, to which I had subscribed several months ago but never received it because they printed only a limited number of copies, and which I really wanted. Looking back at this, I see there is something beautiful and childish. Although I longed for somebody out there beyond my ceiling to exist and solve the humanity's problem with mortality and sickness, in my child's soul, I truly desired the magazine. And the golden fish fulfilled my wish. One day, I found in my mailbox the first issue of the magazine that I loved, and which subsequently brought much joy to my life. That's the kind of wishes that are fulfilled. Although I'm older now, I fear that my wishes or desires are similarly mixed. And I think that Solomon's case from 1 Kings 3 supports this intermingled dynamic. Certainly, there is something wonderful about his request to have a listening, wise heart. Solomon is possibly overwhelmed with his father's greatness and accomplishments. He feels insignificant and unprepared for the task of leadership, and so he naturally asks for the ability to make prudent judgments, to discern between good and evil, to rule well. The young king desperately needs this skill, and the dream aptly reveals Solomon's perhaps subconscious but strong desire. And the Lord is pleased with it. It is a good thing in God's eyes. Wisdom, for which Solomon is later famous, is obviously something positive and beneficial. Yet some elements in the story can be evaluated more negatively, I think. First, Solomon's situation contains suspicious features that ruined his life later on. He married Pharaoh's daughter. That is, he became part of the royal family from the nation that formerly enslaved his people. He loved the Lord, but kept high places in the land, places known for worshiping other gods. In fact, he is just on one such hill. Second, Solomon seems to be interested in only grandiose projects and qualities. Verse 4 literally says, "The king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for it was a great high place." He admired that God showed David great kindness. Israel was in Solomon's eyes a great people, so numerous that they cannot be counted. In several insidious ways, Solomon appears to be captivated by greatness. Unfortunately, this inclination is only reinforced by the way his wish is fulfilled. Solomon not only receives a wise and discerning heart, but also riches, honor, and long life. This is not so because God makes an exception in this case and gives Solomon something unexpected, but because, according to wisdom tradition, wisdom and success go hand in hand. Proverbs 3:16, for example, says, "Long days are in wisdom's right hand, and in her left hand are wealth and honor." Solomon received what might be given to anybody seeking wisdom. In other words, if you have the ability to make prudent decisions in life, your business will likely succeed, your life will be healthier, and you will be more productive. Finally, it is at least peculiar that Solomon admires David's uprightness of heart, but asks for a wise heart. Instead of obedience, he wants wisdom. Of course, God praises Solomon's wish. He could have desired something worse, such as riches or honor, the qualities sought by the fisherman's wife from the Pushkin's fairy tale. But he possibly could have wished something better too. Solomon's nocturnal experience shows me how mixed our desires often are. Goodness and selfishness intermingle there. Which leads me to propose two suggestions for cultivating better desires that I have found helpful for my own life. First, I suggest that we honestly examine what we want in life. Often we glide on the surface, busy with various activities and jobs, not in tune with what is going on underneath our words and thoughts, where the true center of our life lies. Therefore, we need to become helpfully introspective to learn what we actually want. A hint: dreams can help. Or times of solitude. Or prayer. In such moments of transparency, we might be surprised that we indeed wish some selfish or insignificant things, like a magazine with paper malice in it. Or something even more ridiculous, like a sports car. Or a big house. Or becoming famous. When we uncover such a painful discovery, we could ask God's Spirit to help us become like the wise King Solomon. Solomon's wish benefited others. Solomon's long-term desire to acquire wisdom was needed for his own career, but also for the well-being of his community. We may aspire to cultivate similarly beneficial wishes. The second thing. Sometimes, however, the problem with our wishes is not that they are too bad, but that we want them to be the best. I think my critique of Solomon's dreamy dialogue with God stems from this perfectionist position. He could have wished for something better, I thought. Yet he wished for what he knew he needed with all the infelicities of his personality and circumstances. And that was enough. While my first recommendation suggests allowing God to make us into people who wish for something good and beneficial for others, my second advice is to settle for something good enough. For many years, I've been interested in the topic of divine and human choice. The Bible tells us something, I think, about the way God chooses. Psychologists and sociologists tell us about how we as humans choose. One such book, The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz, for example, divides people into two groups according to the way we choose. We can be either maximizers or satisfiers. Maximizers are those who always want the best. They survey all accessible internet reviews before they finally select the best possible item they want to buy. But even then, they hesitate. Or they might be immobilized because there might be a better item released in the near future. Or they buy the item and then they are dissatisfied with the object because it underperforms. Their expectations are higher. The scenario might get even more frustrating if instead of a thing, such a person chooses a job or a place to live or, God forbid, a partner. I can be a maximizer. The worst thing to happen for me is spontaneous shopping. Something which my wife, for reasons eluding my mind, cherishes. Barry Schwartz encourages people like me to become satisfiers. You may still search the best available reviews. You may still desire to do the best. But you strive and consciously settle for good enough. You have a wish. Unlike the old fisherman, you know what you want. You desire something. You have a goal. Because we simply cannot escape our skin. We cannot be somebody totally different. We are who we are with all infirmities and wrong tendencies. And the world in which we live is not perfect either. But God meets us here and now. Notice that God appeared to Solomon at an illegitimate cultic site. God took Solomon's wish seriously and fulfilled it even though it brought some troublesome circumstances. That's what life is about. We need to be aware of what we desire. Turn this desire to God and live with what it brings, the good and the bad. Because I think God wants us to live fully in the present moment rather than wait for a better opportunity sometime in the future, for a more perfect I that is not here and might not be. So when you pray tonight before you go to bed, be ready to tell God your wish. Amen.